Good morning, everyone. Today is finally the day. Today is the day that we are making it to Canada. I've been in this Airbnb in Sandpoint, Idaho for the last couple of days. The weather has just been terrible, and so instead of hunkering down in a wet tent in the forest for 3 or 4 days, I got this Airbnb. So if you guys are ready to ride the scooter with me around southern British Columbia, let's hit the road. This has been a nice little Airbnb. It's within walking distance of a pier back over that way, and downtown Sandpoint is within walking distance over this way. But I haven't really gotten out much because, again, the weather has just been so bad. We have about an hour drive, an hour and 10-minute drive, or ride in this case, to the US-Canada border. It's basically straight north, and we'll be going through the town of Bonner's Ferry in the far northern tip of the Idaho Panhandle, and we'll be crossing the border just north of there. I've been to Canada before, technically. Like when I was a kid, I went to Niagara Falls with my family, and we went to the Canadian side. But apart from that, and apart from going to the Vancouver airport, I've never been to Canada, and so this is my first real trip to Canada. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a long time coming. And another reason that I've been kind of holed up here for the last couple of days is that I wanted to go into Canada when the weather was nice. I didn't want to be driving through this brand new place when the weather was crummy, when the visibility was bad. And we are merging now onto the highway that will take us to the border. We are less than half a mile from the border. US Customs, 1,000 feet. Canada Customs, 1,500 feet. But right at the border, on the US side, there is a gas station. We're gonna stop there to fill up. Why are there these concrete barriers here? That's kind of odd. Okay. Let's put the emergency brake on, or the parking brake. That is one awesome thing about this scooter. It has that parking brake so that on a slope like this, scooter doesn't run away from you. I'm not going to film the border crossing. It is generally frowned upon to try to film international border crossings, even one as relatively benign as this one hopefully will be. Okay, not much gas in there. Let's see. Yeah, $3.92. That's what we like to see. So yeah, since I'm not going to film, I'm gonna wrap it up here on this side of the border. The next time we talk to each other, hopefully, I'll be in Canada. Welcome to Canada, everyone. That was super, super slick, super easy. I'm changing the units here to kilometers an hour, so I know exactly how fast I'm going here. Gonna make a stop at a bank in town. So there's a town called Creston, 9.8 kilometers ahead of us here, and I'm gonna stop at an ATM there. I always like having cash. I mean, obviously you can use a card here, which I will be doing, but I always like to have some extra cash, because occasionally you run into places that take only cash. So yeah, that was one of the easier international border crossings I've done, and I've been to 30 something countries. There was no line or anything. I pulled up to the window. The guy took my passport, asked me where I was going, where I was from, and we talked a little bit about my scooter trip, and that's it. Welcome to Canada. My first real time in Canada. The part of British Columbia that I'm exploring on this trip isn't really the part that you hear about. I'm kind of between, in the middle of a bunch of more famous areas, and that's by choice. I don't want to go to Banff on this trip. Banff is to the north, to the northeast of here. I'm not going to Waterton Lakes National Park, which is basically the same thing as Glacier National Park in Montana, but on the Canadian side. I'm not going to Kelowna, which is to the west. I'm not going to Revelstoke, which is to the north. Those are all much more famous areas. I'm kind of, again, in the middle of all of that. I'm going to be exploring some valleys and lakes, and I'll show you on a map in a minute here, but let me stop and get some money out, and then I'll let you know what the plan is. All right, we are now $40. Well, I was going to say richer. I mean, it's my money, but we now have $40 in cash, cold hard Canadian currency on us. And there are a few sort of Canadian institutions that I want to experience while I'm here for these next couple of days. In addition to the natural beauty that we'll be seeing and the things and places of historical interest, there are some other things that to me are very Canadian, and we are going to the first one of those now, and I've never experienced it before. And again, just to wrap up that border crossing, he only cared about the passport. He didn't ask for my registration or insurance, even though I have those things. Obviously, he just needed the passport, and it was super slick. Took like literally 1 minute. There it is. I see the sign. I see the building. Behold, Tim Hortons. Now, I know that these are in the US, but I've never been to one. They're basically only in the Northeast, or the East as far as I can tell. And this is a very Canadian thing to me. People always getting their coffee in the morning, always getting their Timbits, which are like donut holes. I'm not a coffee drinker, but the Timbits do sound good, so that's what I'm gonna grab. These look good. I'm excited. I got just a variety pack, and I'm gonna enjoy these, then we'll hit the road. Not gonna lie, feeling kind of sick after polishing off most of the box here. As I fortify myself to eat the rest, let me show you where we've come so far on this trip and where we're going and what we're doing over the next couple of days. So we started off in Rock Springs, Wyoming, where I live. Came this way and went into Utah briefly before going through eastern Idaho this way up to Salmon, crossed into Montana about here, went through Hamilton and Missoula, up along this way, past Flathead Lake, past Kalispell, up to this far northwest corner, and then over the last few days I've been in Sandpoint, which is right here at the top end of Idaho. And on this trip, well, right now I'm in Creston. You can see it's marked on the map right there in British Columbia. So over the next couple of days, do you see these lakes here and here? We're going to be basically exploring and driving along these lakes. So going to go up this one and then over to this and then back down and then back into Washington. The goal of this trip and of this brief foray into Canada is not to see everything. You know, I never try to see everything on a first trip to a place, just to basically wander around and see some pretty stuff and see what it's like. The girl working there gave me 12 or 13 donut holes instead of 10. It's not something I needed this early in the morning, but I'm all fueled up. So our first stop is about 30 miles. No, let's see. 39 kilometers, about 30 minutes up the road. Speed limit is 80 kilometers. Nice. The analog speedometer on the dash here has kilometers in it, of course, but they're smaller and blue and they're kind of hard to see, and so I'm relying on my app. And I do not have phone service here, but I've mapped out everywhere that I want to go in my Gaia app, which is the offline app I use to track hikes and everything like that. And so I look at that map to consult where I'm going to go next. I have all my waypoints and points of interest marked there, and then I copy the coordinates of those places and paste them into this app. This is an offline
turn-by-turn navigation app. You can download entire states, or in this case entire provinces, to the app for offline use. And so I have no service right now, but I'm getting turn-by-turn navigation because I copied and pasted the coordinates of my next destination into the app here. On my left here is a lake. I believe it was a natural lake, but it has since been kind of stabilized with a dam. And we're going to be following this lake for a while on the east side of the lake, where we are now. Then we're going to cross the lake and continue following it on the west side. Our first stop along the side of the lake is just ahead, less than half a kilometer away. And it's a house, but it's a house made out of some interesting materials. So this is a house made out of not just glass, but bottles. And not just any bottles, but embalming fluid bottles. So this house was built in 1952 by a guy who retired from the funeral business, and he had a bunch of embalming bottles, and enlisted the help of his friends to get more, and he built a house out of them. You can't take a tour. It is $10. I won't be doing that today for time reasons, but you can still stop and admire it from the outside here. Neat spot, the glass house. I was talking with the lady there. I believe she is the granddaughter of the guy who built it, and so she gives the tours and takes care of the property. 500,000 bottles. It's a lot of dead people. She also gave me a little tourist map of the area and was helpful in recommending some sites to me. Very nice, very nice. We are pushing on. We have another half hour of riding to go to get to the next spot, the next little town that's just up the way along the side of the lake here. Wow, that is so beautiful. I just passed a sign saying a maximum 60 kilometers an hour for the next 30 kilometers. So that's what, like 40 miles an hour? Seems a bit slow, but nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with taking our time and soaking up the beautiful views and the beautiful countryside and the beautiful Lay's chip truck. Lots of these places right on the lake are for sale. I'm tempted. Wow. Beautiful. I saw online that I think it was this lake in particular, but maybe it was just about the lakes in this area in general. They called this an inland fjord, and I can see that. This feels like a fjord. I feel like I'm in, Norway or New Zealand or something like that. Awesome, awesome country. A mile ahead here is our next spot. It says welcome to Crawford Bay. I guess that's the name of the town here. And we're actually going to get a ferry across the lake. There's no bridge here, but there is a free ferry. But we have about an hour and a half until the next ferry. We just missed one, and so we have some time to kill. So I think we're going to go for a little bit of an exploration in a provincial park that's near here. But first, there's a store that I want to stop at, and they sell brooms, believe it or not. Yeah, the sign said Crawford Bay Artistic by Nature. I think there are several kind of handcrafted artisanal shops here. And the one that I read about before this trip is called, I believe, North Woven Broom. And it's a broom shop. They make handmade brooms that have been featured all over the world, and they've made them for movies, and they've done promotional work for the Harry Potter people. So it should be fun. It should be interesting. I just saw a sign for Norse Arts, a pottery shop, a jewelry shop, a blacksmith, lots of signs for galleries and studios. And here we go. Artisan brooms. North Woven Broom. Handcrafted brooms. Cool. Super cool little shop, and I talked to the owner for a while. He's been in the broom business for 12 years. I think it was his, some relatives, an aunt and an uncle, I think, who started this and ran it for 25 years. He bought it about 9 years ago, and I picked up this little, this cute little broom magnet. I don't really have a whole lot of space on this thing for souvenirs, so we're making do with what we have. From here, we're going to continue into, let's see, I don't know if there's more to this town, if there's more to Crawford Bay, but we're going to continue up the road here. Let's go check out the ferry schedule. I think the next one leaves in an hour, but I want to double check. Well, I think that was just about it as far as Crawford Bay goes. The next little community that I'm going to now is called Kootenay Bay, and I think that's where the ferry leaves from. Ferry landing, prepare to stop. Okay, ferry congestion ahead. Okay, I don't think there's too much congestion this time of year, but we'll see. Welcome to Kootenay Bay. Okay, we do have a line at the ferry terminal here. But there's something else that I wanted to see in this area, so let's go check that out. If we miss the next ferry, so be it, but I wanted to see something a few kilometers down this road, 4.5 kilometers down this road to be exact. I thought that this was going to be a dirt or gravel road. That's what it looked like from the satellite images as I was planning this trip, but it's a nice paved road. Holy cow. We have a couple of turkeys. This guy is in full-on turkey mode. He's going after this lady turkey, I assume. Wow. That's amazing. I don't know if you guys could hear that. He just gobbled. Ah. This is fun. This is great. This is a beautiful little drive. I'm just puttering along at 30 kilometers an hour. I think, hold on, I need to back up. I think that was the trail that I'm heading for. Yes. Lighthouse Trail. I don't think this is really much of a trail. I think it just takes a few minutes to get there. Yeah, just 0.4 kilometers or a quarter of a mile to get here. And we are on a peninsula. I followed this road in this way, and we are entering Pilot Bay Provincial Park.
Welcome to the historic Pilot Bay Lighthouse. Please latch door when you leave. Okay. Wow. Let's head up the stairs here. The sign here says that this important aid to navigation was established in 1905. It originally had an oil lamp to guide the paddle wheel steamers on Kootenay Lake. And then we have a second set of stairs that is even steeper, I think, than the first one. There's no light in here anymore. This is not a functional lighthouse anymore. Definitely worth the little climb up here, though. What a view. What a beautiful, beautiful place. And I think this boat out here might be the ferry that I need to catch. So we should probably hurry up. Man. Absolutely gorgeous. I've got to watch my step when I'm like backing up that I don't peel over backwards and tumble down the stairs here. So I'll see you guys, hopefully, at the ferry terminal. If I don't fall and break my neck here first. Okay, we are in time. There's a long line of cars here. So that means that the ferry has not yet come. Is there a motorcycle line? Sometimes there are on these ferries. Okay, the ferry is just now arriving. Okay, we are at the tail end of lane 3. There are 8 lanes, so whatever that means. I don't know if being at the tail end of lane 3 is enough to get me on to this one, or if I need to like wait for the next ferry. This row is moving. First ferry ride with the scooter, very exciting. Oh, there's even a coffee shop on here, very nice. Yeah, coffee shop, snack bar, shut off engine, set parking brake. Okay. I do have the parking brake. And away we go. Ferry ride took about 35 minutes. It was nice and smooth, beautiful scenery, no complaints. That was great. And I forget what this little town is called, but I do see a sign up ahead saying left to Nelson, right to Kaslo. We are going to Kaslo, so we're gonna hang a right up here. And we were before riding on the right side of the lake, the east side of the lake, but thanks to the ferry, we are now on the left side or the west side of the lake.
Here we go.
Our next stop is just a short little walk down the trail. It's to a waterfall. It's called Fletcher Falls. I can see the top of the falls. Looks promising. I think we can get down there. I think the trail continues on to the bottom of the waterfall. Just a beautiful waterfall. And it's raging right now. A lot of water coming down this creek. And we can get even closer. There's a viewing platform down here. Let's go head that way. Pretty magical little spot. And then below the waterfall, the creek empties into the lake. And we have this just stunning view. Doesn't get much better than this. We're now about 10 kilometers up the road from the waterfall, parked right here in a pretty little town called Kaslo. And we have this huge boat right here. We'll talk more about this in a minute, but I wanted to show you the view and the scenery first. So apparently this town is known as the Little Switzerland of Canada, and you can understand why. Just amazing mountain views down in this direction. Over here, across the lake. Over here. Beautiful. So this boat is the SS Moyie, M-O-Y-I-E. It was in service from the late 1800s, I think 1898 until 1957. And it was built by the railroad because it connected basically the railroad that arrived at the lake from the east and then the railroad that arrived in Nelson, the town over this way, from the west. And it's touted as the world's largest intact stern wheeler. We have this big wheel at the stern at the back of the ship. And with cars replacing trains as the main mode of transport out here, all of the ships that were on the lake, I think there were 6 of them at one point, all of them were eventually decommissioned, and this was the last one in use. It costs $14 for a self-guided walking tour of the ship. I have my boarding pass here, so I'm good to go. We're not going to spend a ton of time here. I'm just going to kind of wander around and take a look. That was really neat, worth the $14 I think. And now let's go explore the town itself a little bit, or at least let me show it to you. There's not a whole lot to explore, it's not that big, but let me show it to you and see if we can find anywhere that looks appealing for an early dinner. Okay, so there's actually kind of less to the town than I thought. It's basically just this street. And I've been looking at different restaurants, but literally every single one of them is closed. I think they're just kind of not open yet for this season, and the ones that are happen to be closed today. So I guess the plan is to go into this market right here, try to find a sandwich or something, and then I'll meet you guys back at camp. Welcome to my first ever Canadian campsite. Let me show you around. It's just off to the side of a little gravel pullout. Great mountain views over in this direction. Great mountain views over in the opposite direction. We still have a little bit of snow up there. This is a dirt road, a logging road that leads off of the main paved highway. So let me go out to the highway and I'll show you how I found this spot, what I was looking for, and how I ended up being here. So Kaslo is over here. I was riding the road this way, and I was looking for offshoots, looking for roads that branched off of this main highway. While I was planning this portion of the trip, I thought, yeah, I'll probably camp somewhere in this area, somewhere between Kaslo over here and New Denver, which is like, I don't know, 30 kilometers over in that direction. And so I was looking at the map and I saw just a ton of dirt roads branching off of the main highway, and I figured those are probably logging roads on Crown land. Crown land is basically the Canadian equivalent of like National Forest land or BLM land. It's public land. And so I thought, okay, let me just follow those little side dirt roads, those side gravel roads until I find a place to camp. And this is one of the first ones I came to. Kaslo is only like 10 or 15 minutes over in this direction. It's fairly close to town. So I saw the bridge and I saw the beautiful creek or river here, and I thought it looked cool. And then I saw this sign over here. Let's go take a closer look. It says SE Homes Forest Service Road, British Columbia. So I thought, okay, that's a good sign. It's not like a driveway into someone's backyard or anything like that. So I rode the scooter up this way a little bit, and this is the first spot that I came to. I saw this fire ring right here, and I thought, oh, perfect. People have camped here, people do camp here, and it's really close to the road. This is the bridge right here, easy to access, easy to do on the scooter. But then I thought, well, maybe it's too close to the road, too close to the main highway. So I kept going up a little bit, and that's where I found the spot where I am now. It's basically the next gravel pullout up the road. Right there. And there is indeed a fire ring at this upper little gravel pullout. So people have camped here too, and I'm just at the upper end of it. For dinner, I did go into that little grocery store in Kaslo and I got a cold sandwich. I think it was called like a pizza sandwich or something. It was fine. And then I got an ice cream sandwich, and I took them out by the lake and sat on a picnic bench and at a picnic table and ate my food and enjoyed that amazing view of the mountains and the lake and had a great time. I really enjoyed Kaslo. I had a couple of fun conversations there. As I was filming the outside of the bookshop, the bookstore, I got to talking with the guy who was like hanging out plants outside the bookstore. And I don't know if he was the owner of the store or just like the guy who ran it, but he's an American guy from California who married a Canadian, and his background is in like performing arts, and so he and his wife manage the bookstore, but then also they run the summer Shakespeare festival in town, in Kaslo. They started that a few years ago. I think he said this is their third year of doing it, so I thought that was really neat. This is bear country, and so I need to be careful with with what I do with my food tonight and my toiletries and everything. I'm gonna keep them not in the tent. This is also mosquito country. They're not too bad, but there are enough of them out. So I'm not gonna keep anything in my tent that's smelly. I'm gonna keep that all, I think, in the scooter. So the scooter seat lifts up and there's quite a bit of storage space underneath the seat here. So I'm gonna use my scooter as a bear can or as a bear box. Normally in this area, if you stay at a campground, they have those metal square bear canisters or bear boxes for food. When you're boondocking, you don't have that. So I'm gonna put it in here. I'll probably drive it to the far end of the campsite just to get it away from my tent a little bit. And hopefully that's good enough. That's gonna wrap it up for today's filming, I think. It's only 6 o'clock. I have like 4.5 hours of daylight left, but I'm just gonna hang out at camp and relax a little bit, listen to an audiobook or some podcasts. Maybe I'll take the chair down to the creek and read a book down there. I don't know, we'll see. But this video will continue into tomorrow. Both days of the Canada trip are gonna be in this video, so keep watching and I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. We survived. I survived in the tent with my sleeping bag that isn't warm enough. I don't think I've talked about that, but I was kind of already packed for this trip for a long time. Well, for the scooter trip for a long time. And originally that scooter trip was going to be across the country. You might remember me talking about that. I was going to go from California to North Carolina. And so I had all my gear packed, my tent, my sleeping bag and everything. The plan then became to come to Canada. I didn't change out the sleeping bag. So I still have my kind of warm weather sleeping bag that I was gonna use on the cross-country trip. I didn't even think to bring a warmer sleeping bag. And so this whole trip, which hasn't been especially warm, I've been struggling a little bit. So I sleep in all of my clothes. I sleep in my riding pants and my down jacket. I don't sleep in my riding jacket because it's like armored and is hard and uncomfortable to sleep in. I do use it as sort of a pillow though. Anyway, the scooter made it through. It was unharassed, unmolested by bears. I made it. We're gonna have some breakfast now. I've got this little breakfast biscuit thing, some green olives, and a Reese's. We're gonna have a proper lunch though, so don't be too hard on me.
Man, it didn't rain last night, but it might as well have. Everything is just absolutely drenched because of the morning dew. Pretty crazy. The first stop of the day is I don't know if it's a hike or if it's just like kind of a nature trail, but either way, we're going for a little walk in the trees, in the big trees, I think. And then the theme for today, like I have some things planned, but mostly I want to just kind of ride around and see the sights and just take it easy, take it casual, and we'll cross back into the US, probably into Washington sometime later this afternoon. And if you're sad that there isn't more Canada content, don't worry, I am going to be coming back later this year in one of my SUVs, and so it'll be more getting off into the backcountry and exploring deeper into the mountains and the more normal stuff for this channel. With the scooter, I'm a little bit limited as to what I can see and do, which is, again, both kind of a blessing and a curse. I like the challenge of being forced to stay kind of on paved roads and find interesting stuff in the cities, but My heart is deeper in the mountains. My heart is miles up a dirt road somewhere. Okay, I think this is it. Let's see. I'm just reading all these signs here. Yeah, Ancient Cedars Trail. I think it said 30 meters or 50 meters. All right, let's stretch the legs a little bit.
Retallack Cedars Recreation Trail, British Columbia. I'm keeping my riding gear on. I don't really want to go through the hassle of changing into hiking gear. I don't think this is like a big hike or anything. I think we're just strolling along the creek or along the river. And I think this is the Kaslo River, by the way. I just saw that on my map. And again, the draw here, the attraction, are the old growth cedars. So big cedar trees. The sign here says that this is an easy 1 kilometer loop hiking trail, and also that historically there have been bear dens in the area at the base of the cedars, and one of the dens still looks like it's being used potentially, so to just be careful and don't bother the bears. And this is why it's called the Ancient Cedars Trail. These trees are hundreds of years old, and they look it. They're huge. At the base of this big tree, there might be one of those bear dens. I mean, the opening is relatively small, but I think it opens up down in there. I mean, there's not a bear there now, thankfully. One of my favorite things about places like this is how calm and peaceful it sort of seems at first glance, but really how chaotic it is in actuality. You have all kinds of trees that have been broken in so many different ways, you know, some partially snapped off halfway up the tree, others have been uprooted and you can see their roots alongside the trail. You've got all kinds of things falling in the forest, you've got all kinds of plants kind of fighting with each other, and it's just such a cool place, such an interesting environment to explore. And then of course you have these granddaddy and grandmama trees here that are just breathtaking.
That was great. That was a really fun little hike. Took about 40 minutes to complete the loop, and it was definitely worth doing. I don't know if the next spot that I have marked out is worth stopping for, but it's only, let's see, 2.4 kilometers down the road. It's a 2-minute ride. I saw a picture as I was browsing Google Maps of something in particular that I thought was kind of funny. And let's see if we can find it. It's located at a lake. Let's see, I think this is our stop. Is it? Yes, I think so. I'm looking for a pipe in the ground. And that'll hopefully make more sense. Oh yeah, there it is, I think. At least that's a pipe. I don't know if that's the pipe. Let's go check it out.
The pipe that I'm interested in is right here, and it's all about toads, western toads to be specific. So this is apparently important toad breeding habitat. So in the spring, toads that live in the forest up here migrate down to the lake to breed and lay their eggs. Then they go back up to the forest, and then in midsummer the eggs hatch and the little tadpoles grow up, and then they become little toadlets, as the sign said, and they need to get back into the forest up there. And so to protect the toads and toadlets, there is this little toad, what I thought was a pipe. Like I thought they migrated through the pipe, but it's actually a fence. You can see a picture of it here. But yeah, this is a toad migration fence. Isn't that crazy? Who would have thought? And so I think there's also a tunnel to help them go underneath the road over here, because otherwise you'd have, I mean, thousands of toads splatted on the highway out there. This fence prevents thousands of toadlets from being killed trying to cross the highway. After safely crossing under the highway, they migrate up the mountain to hibernate for the winter.
Welcome to the town of New Denver, British Columbia, named after Denver, Colorado, which was a famous silver mining town, silver boom town. And the people who were mining around here hoped that they would have similar success, and so they named their little spot here New Denver. Judging by the size of New Denver versus Denver, Colorado, I think we can probably see how that went over the years. But I mean, this is definitely in a better, well, at least prettier location than Denver, Colorado. So they do have that going for them here. I do need to get gas here. I'm a little bit less than half a tank. I've gone all this way, getting 71 miles per gallon. Pretty darn good. So we are going to the Nikei Internment Memorial Center, and you may be aware, if you are caught up on your U.S. history during World War II, that the U.S. government basically forcibly imprisoned thousands and thousands of Japanese Americans at the start of World War II, when, you know, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor and all that stuff. And a similar sort of thing happened here in Canada, where there were a number of these internment camps set up throughout British Columbia. They were removed from Vancouver into the coast and brought inland. And this is the spot, this is the site of one of those internment camps.
The sign here talks about how the Japanese Canadian population was removed from the west coast during the Second World War, and approximately 12,000 of the 22,000 displaced persons were sent to internment camps like this one that were located in remote areas. And I just found out that there's a $9 entrance fee to wander around, so I'm not going to do that. But these three shacks are original to the site. These would have housed the prisoners here. We have a bit of a drive ahead of us now. I think it's an hour and 20 minutes to get to the next spot. I'm hungry, and so we're going to drive to a place to have lunch that is in a town that's over that way. I need to fill up the gas tank first, and then let's just roll that beautiful riding footage along the lake here. Okay, we are now in the town of Nelson, BC. Really cool little town, very happening, very hip downtown area. We're gonna walk down the street over this way and get some lunch. And remember how I said that there were 3 Canadian institutions that I wanted to experience, and the first was Tim Hortons. The second is at this restaurant. I think this place is called Main Street Diner.
Well, in case that wasn't clear, that was poutine, sort of. That restaurant was a little bit fancier than I thought it would be. I saw online that it was a diner, and I saw that they had poutine on the menu, and I thought, oh great, let me go check that out. Well, it's a little bit fancier than just your regular diner, and so I got a variation of poutine. They didn't have just like your standard poutine with fries and gravy and cheese or cheese curds. The one I got was called Mumbai poutine, which is also fitting, I guess. You know, there are lots of Indian immigrants in India, and so it was fries with like curry sauce and cheese, and it was very good. And remember, I'm at the mercy of past Tristan as he was planning this trip, because I don't have a cell signal here, so I couldn't look up another poutine place. But it was really good. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to cross poutine off my list for now as one of the pieces of Canada that I wanted to experience. And so now I'm going to go just across the lake, or across the river. I think it's a lake here. And try to find a nice viewpoint of the town here, of Nelson. I got a glimpse of it from afar as I was coming in, and it was kind of like located on a hillside, and it looked really pretty. So I'd like to convey that to you guys by going across the water and seeing if I can find a good viewpoint before we continue on our way onto the next destination. I've also noticed at multiple gas stations that they were prepay. Like, you go inside, say how much gas you want, pay for it, and then fill up your tank. They didn't have credit card terminals on the pumps. I thought that was odd. Is that a common thing in Canada? It seems to be. Let's see. What does this one look like? Oh, that one had the credit card machine. A couple others that I've stopped at have not. So maybe, I don't know. If you're from Canada, let me know. Is it common to not have the credit card machine on the gas pump? Watch out, Crow. Or am I just getting unlucky with the gas stations that I'm stopping at? Again, I think this is a lake. I don't think this is a river. I think the river here is dammed. So we have another one of those long, skinny lakes. It's beautiful. Once again. Yeah, here we go. Can you guys see that? See the downtown area over on the left? That is neat. James Johnstone Regional Park. That's the one.
Also, do you remember how yesterday morning I stopped as soon as I got across the border and went to an ATM to get some cash out? I'm glad I did, because I had to pay for a parking meter over in downtown Nelson, and I had some $5 bills and no coins to put in the meter, so I went across the street there and got a pack of tissues for like $1.59 and got a few dollars change that I was able to use in the parking meter. It's always good to have cash on you. We have a nice little beach here at lake level. Here's the bridge that I just crossed. And then here's the town. So there are some buildings over here. And then I think the downtown area where I just was is over on this end. I love towns with dimension to them. It's hard to beat a city built on a hillside.
I'm about half an hour outside of Nelson now, and I'm trying to get on the other side of the river right here because there's a waterfall over there. And there's no bridge here, but there is a ferry. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to take one more ferry across, head on over, and see if we can't find the waterfall. I think it's kind of a more obscure waterfall, so we'll see. Well, good, perfect timing. It's just coming back across the river. I think this is another free ferry. 5 a.m. to 2:20 a.m.
Other lane now, please.
Let's see, this is still, or rather once again, the Kootenay River. It's beautiful. Oh, and we're already moving. That's so cool. Man, what a beautiful day. Gotta figure out where I'm going once I get across the water. This is a cable ferry. I can see the cable in the water there. The boat is going along the cable, pulling itself along with the cable. Huh. Well, that just took a few minutes. That wasn't bad. That was slick. This little community on the other side of the river is called Glade. I think this is one of several communities of Russian immigrants called Doukhobor or Doukhobor, who left Russia because they were facing religious persecution. They didn't adhere to the Orthodox priesthood and teachings, the Russian Orthodox Church, and so they left. They were sponsored, I think Tolstoy, Lev Tolstoy, the famous author of War and Peace and Anna Karenina, he sponsored them, and then some other groups that I can't remember off the top of my head right now did also. And so they immigrated to this part of Canada, and so apparently there are like signs in Russian around here, and I just noticed on the map that I have here, there's a Doukhobor Cemetery, and so we might go check that out, see if we can go find some headstones in Russian or something like that. That'd be interesting. There is a Doukhobor Discovery Center, I think it's called, somewhere in I think in Kaslo, which is a town down that way. And so you can learn all about them and everything. I think we are going to skip that because we are kind of running short on time. Somewhere around here, let's see, it looks like the road turns to gravel. Is there an obvious place to, okay, there's a trail here. That's good. I think we're gonna park over here and follow this trail to the waterfall. Okay guys, I just talked with someone who lives here across the street. She said that the trail is further up the road here. The problem is that there's this giant puddle. let's give it a shot. Ooh, we did it. Woo. Oh, but the road is not super scooter friendly. She said to go past the bridge. I need a real motorcycle. I need something that can go on dirt roads. Oh, okay, here's the bridge. So she said, park after the bridge. Ooh, and follow the creek upstream. So that's what we'll do. And sure enough, we have a trail. Okie doke, I don't think this hike is too far. I think it's like a quarter of a mile. At least that's where the waterfall is, according to past Tristan, who was planning this trip, so we'll see if it's accurate or not. I think this is gonna work. The road that I've been following came up from this way and then continues on over in this direction, but there's a little spur side road or side trail that I think leads to the waterfall. I can hear a lot of water moving over in this direction. A really cool waterfall, definitely feels off the beaten path. If you're looking for something a little bit farther afield while you're going through this area, I can recommend it. Now let's head back into the little community of Glade. First of all, we need to cross that that giant puddle. See if I can do that again. And then again, I want to go check out that the Doukhobor Cemetery. And Doukhobor means like spirit wrestler, spirit fighter, that sort of thing. Why is this so big? Okay, let's give it the beans. Oh yeah, piece of cake. Okay, and just a couple blocks away should be the cemetery. I'm not sure what I'm expecting to find or hoping to find or see at the cemetery, but I just kind of want to see it. I guess I want to see if there are any names in Russian. And it might not be like a publicly open cemetery. It might be a private cemetery. I don't know. Oh no, here we go. Okay, let's go check it out. So right off the bat in the cemetery here, we have a little plaque. And at first I didn't realize it was in Russian and English. I thought it was just in Russian, so I was slowly trying to translate this. I sort of speak Russian. I spoke Russian about 15 or 16 years ago. I could speak decently well. I lived in Ukraine for 2 years. I've been to Russia. I've been to a bunch of former Soviet republics. And so, I haven't spoken in 15 or 16 years, but I can still kind of read it and understand it. And so I was like, a century of something of the Doukhobor in Canada. I don't really know what this is. But then I realized that there's the equivalent in English right here. So it's the centennial of the Doukhobor migration to Canada. And it says that they came to Canada from Russia in 1899 because of persecution for their life concept and refusal to bear arms. So they were Christian pacifists. And sure enough, we have some of these old headstones of some of those original immigrants. This person, 1881, born, died in 1968. And a lot of them have a mix of English and Russian on them. Like this one says, love, faith, hope, the greatest is love. And then it says, Вечная память, which means like eternal memory in Russian. Canada is fairly well known for having a large Ukrainian diaspora, a large Ukrainian immigrant population, but not so well known for this. And so I had never heard of this. I had no idea about these people until I was researching this trip. So again, it's always fun to find these little historical, not oddities, but these little unique historical events that are tied to a certain geographical area. So interesting. But it is getting late, guys. It's 4:21 right now. The border crossing that I was going to take back to get into the States closed at 4, so I've kind of had to rethink my plans. I'm going to have to drive farther to the east. I'm going to go back through Idaho. The plan was to go out through or into Washington, but now I'm going to have to go back to Idaho because I know that there's a border crossing there that is open 24 hours. I don't know if the other ones in Washington that I was looking at are, so I'm just gonna play it safe, and we're gonna have to drive kind of far over to that other one, but that's fine, we have enough daylight. But before we get out of here, before we leave this part of the world, this part of British Columbia, there is one more quintessentially Canadian thing that I mentioned that I want to see and experience, and for that we're gonna have to go into town. I think it's in Castlegar, so I'll meet you guys over there. Welcome to Castlegar. I've come here to visit the Canadian institution that is Canadian Tire. I watch a couple of Canadian YouTubers and they're always running to Canadian Tire for something. I think it's kind of like a mix of a Walmart and a Home Depot. And so, this isn't probably the most exciting thing in the world to show you guys, but I'm excited. To me, this is a very Canadian thing, and so I wanted to experience it. And so I'm gonna go in and take a look around. Maybe I'll take a couple pictures and show you guys for my fellow Americans or fellow non-Canadians, so you can see what the deal is with Canadian Tire. And then I'm probably gonna use their Wi-Fi. I think they have Wi-Fi. And then I can look up the close by border crossings to see if they're open. See if there's one that's open 24 hours that isn't too far away. So I'll see you inside, and then I'll see you probably on the other side of the border at a campsite somewhere.
Goodness gracious, I am exhausted. My neck and my shoulders hurt. I have a headache. It's been a long day. It's been a long trip. We're gonna make this quick. I'm at camp. I guess let me show it to you. I'm currently somewhere in northeastern Washington, and there's no one else around, and it's a beautiful spot. The border crossing was fine, no issues there. I pulled up, gave the guy my passport. He asked me where I was coming from and where I was from, and if I had any drugs or alcohol on me, and I sailed on through. It was great. Like I said, I am exhausted, but I had a great time. What a fun couple of days in a brand new place for me in just spectacular scenery. Very rugged, very dramatic landscapes, so much water, such cool mountains, cute little towns. I mean, what's not to like? I had a great time, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I will be back in Canada in a couple of months. I think I might have said that earlier in the video. At least that's the plan. Plans can change, but I do plan on heading back sometime later on in the summer to do some adventuring, so stay tuned for that. And I'd love to hear what you guys thought. What what were your impressions of those areas if you've traveled there before? And as far as differences go between this part of the US and that part of Canada, I mean, not a whole lot. I don't think that's a huge surprise to anyone. People look the same, people sound the same. The landscape on the Canadian side was more dramatic than it is in this general area. This is more like rolling mountains, more pastoral. That was there were more people over there too, more people on the Canadian side, which kind of surprised me. And then it was great seeing the Canadian flag flying all over the place. It's a great flag, one of the great flags of the world for sure. And then seeing things in French was different, and hearing French, or at least people with French accents. And I heard a couple of English accents too, so that was unique. I don't normally hear that on my travels in the Western US. And then seeing different candy bars, just little things like that that you see in the store. It's fun to just see the little differences. That's what I really get a kick about. Get a kick from? What's the saying? I got a kick on. I don't know. I'm tired, guys. Cut me some slack. Got a kick out of that. Okay, that's the kind of thing that I get a kick out of. Anyway, let me know what your experiences have been like in that general area. If you've been there before, let me know what your favorite part was. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to bed, and I'll see you in the next one. Actually, before we sign off here, I mentioned at the start of this series and when I bought this scooter that the first plan was to go to Canada. And then if I felt like it, I was going to continue on to Seattle and to the Pacific coast from there. And that is the plan. I'm feeling good. The scooter has a weird noise developing. I don't know what that is. I'll maybe talk about that more in the next video. But I'm feeling good, and I want to keep going. So we're going to head to the Pacific. And I think that'll be all in one video. The next video will be the whole ride from here to the Pacific Ocean. So anyway, enough rambling. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Be sure to check out Adventure Know-How, my new site, where you can gain access to a map of all of my free campsites, plus monthly bonus videos that you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at adventureknowhow.com. And for links to everything else SUV RVing related, visit suvrving.com. Links to these sites and more will be in the video description.